Some of the most difficult and worrying discussions I've had with women have been where they've said to me that actually they were really worried about going to speak to their employer about their symptoms. They felt they couldn't have that discussion, that they wouldn't be understood. These measures are simple ways to ensure that doesn't happen.
The Labour Party is announcing today more help for menopausal women in the workplace. The party says they'll mandate all larger companies to publish and implement a menopause action plan. And I'm joined by Anneliese Dodds, chair of the Labour Party now. Anneliese, thank you so much. This is our second date of the day, isn't it? We've already been on Good Morning Britain together at some ungodly hour. So what would your plans mean for menopausal women and for workplaces, and what's prompted you to put this policy forward?
So thanks very much for having me on to talk about it, Mariella. And, I really believe this is an area where we've got to see far more action taken. If I think about my own 20s and 30s, I'm pushing 45 now, I'll be 45 next month. I never remember the menopause being discussed through all of that time. Certainly don't remember any discussion about it at work. It is the efforts of campaigners, and I'm going to single you out, Mariella. I think I have to. Also
Name
Davina,
and shame.
Many others. My own colleague Carolyn Harris, who's done brilliant work on this, who've really been saying that this is something that affects 52% of the population. Women will have a variety of different symptoms. For those who do have symptoms that make their existing work pattern and other aspects of work difficult, there are some really simple things that employers can do. And, we've learned from some great businesses that have taken action here. Tesco, for example, and Nationwide, making some adjustments to uniform after some menopausal women pointed out that it really wasn't helping them if they experienced hot flushes. Other companies that have made sure their flexible working systems actually support women in those circumstances too. It's a really common sense policy to make sure we're supporting those women.
Anneliese, I was particularly fascinated by a question that you were asked this morning when we were interviewed on breakfast television about the fact that women are already, and I'm paraphrasing, but, irritating because they go off and have babies, and causing problems by going off and having babies, maternity leave and so on. And now menopause, are you making women unemployable? What do you think about the idea that it's causing irritation for women who have the sole burden of reproducing, being an irritation?
I find that an astonishing point of view, to be honest. And actually, if we look at some of the cold hard economics of this, we know that 1 in 10 women who are of menopausal age, they've actually left their existing job because they couldn't combine it anymore with managing their menopausal symptoms. Now, very often, quite simple changes could have been made so that they could have been kept in the workforce. These women, they're often, just like their male counterparts, you think about their age, the experience that they've built up, they're really valuable members of staff. And so actually it's really good for employers to keep them on, and it's really good for our economy, and we definitely need to be keeping these women in work for essentially the health of our economy going forward.
And that is one of the fascinating things. We talk a lot. I mean, in fact, Downing Street, the Prime Minister's office were talking only about a month ago about wanting to see more people over 50 come back into the workplace. And we don't, I feel, talk often enough about the economic enhancement that women in middle age bring our economy.
Well, we definitely don't. And we've actually seen, particularly for that age group, an increase in what's called economic inactivity. I don't really like the phrase because actually very often those women will be doing a lot. They'll often be caring, obviously, for their kids, sometimes grandkids, and often for elderly parents as well. So they're not inactive women. But if the workplace made more sense for them, for their busy lives, then they could be ultimately taxpayers as well, contributing to our economy. Very often they'll be the ones who'll be coming up with the new ideas about how to make a company more efficient because they've got that great experience. And we need to do more to be keeping them in work. And after 13 years of really slow growth in the UK, I think the question is whether we can afford to continue as how we've been going, or whether we're really going to make sure those women get the support they deserve.
Another common comment that you hear is that it's going to cost companies too much, and that therefore it's not so much just the nuisance level of pesky women with their hormonal journeys, but also the fact that it costs companies to put these policies into place. What sort of policies do you want to see companies implement, and is it an additional expense?
Well, I've talked with a number of different businesses who've taken action on this. And actually, it's ended up saving them a huge amount of money, because it's enabled them to keep some of the most important workers in their business in work, to make sure that they retain them, that they don't go elsewhere. That's incredibly important. So, for example, we've seen companies that have made alterations to uniform so that they're more suitable for women experiencing those symptoms. Others who've made sure that their flexible working supports women. For example, if they need to get a GP appointment, and heaven knows, we all know it's pretty difficult to get one sometimes, that if you need that appointment to discuss your symptoms, that actually your boss will help you. And some of the most difficult and worrying discussions I've had with women have been where they've said to me that actually they were really worried about going to speak to their employer about their symptoms. They felt they couldn't have that discussion, that they wouldn't be understood. These measures are simple ways to ensure that doesn't happen.
Just finally, I've just been talking to Gabby Burton, Baroness Burton, about the Joe Cox Commission to try and improve safety for politicians in their working lives, and we hear that 93% of female politicians suffer abuse of one sort or another, of varying levels of seriousness. You're chair of the Labour Party. Do you get that sort of abuse?
I do get abuse, and actually I was kind of thinking about this during your really interesting discussion earlier about what needs to change. Because when I came into politics, quite a long time ago, I was in my early 20s the first time that I stood for election, and that was before social media really becoming such an important part of our democracy, but also some of the really negative trends that we've seen coming into play. And I'm always trying to encourage young women, saying to them, do come into this, and do always make sure you're talking with other women, that you have that support if you start to experience abuse. But I think it is a different world to what I faced when I first became involved. And, we do need to do more. If you look at that online harms bill, and I know you're going to be talking about some of this later, there were opportunities there around tackling, particularly some of that misogynistic material, the way that it's pushed onto individuals. We need to be opening up some of these algorithms and making sure not that people don't have a choice around what they're able to access through social media, but that actually we stop those really vicious cycles taking place, which can be so damaging.
Indeed. Anneliese Dodds, Chair of the Labour Party, thank you very much indeed for joining me today.